Everyone, welcome to the Torvus podcast. My name is Ari and I'm joined by Jason, and we're going to be talking about some weird stuff today. So if you haven't listened to the Torvus podcast before, we talk about everything from 80s culture to monsters, movies, mayhem, martial arts, motivation, you name it. And today we're going to be talking about a phenomenon called the Mandela Effect. If you're unaware of what the Mandela Effect is, you're about to have a wild ride with us for the next hour. So in a nutshell, the Mandela Effect is a theory that there is an alternate reality or many alternate realities that have happened over time. And how we remember one thing is not exactly how it is or was. So Jason and I were going back and forth about different Mandela effects and things that we can remember. And we have some different memories. We always thought we were on the same timeline, and we must have diverged together, but I think there's probably a couple that
I think we're multi-dimensional beings. We're not just from a single timeline. We're several threads woven together.
So it's kind of split.
Each person is not a single entity. We have several quantum threads thrown together to make us.
Got it. Okay, so here's kind of the history of the Mandela Effect. In 2009, there was a woman by the name of Fiona Broome, and she coined the phrase of the Mandela Effect. She was at a meeting, I believe, Jason, and with a whole bunch of people, and a discussion came up, and they were talking about Nelson Mandela. And she had found out that many people at this meeting were convinced.
What kind of conference?
It was a conference, right? Yeah. And so she was convinced that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s. And they were absolutely convinced, and everyone's like, yeah, he died. And we saw it on the news, and he died. And
some people remember some giant funeral, big procession or something or another.
Yeah, so it's crazy. But according to our timeline, as Nelson Mandela actually died in 2013.
Which is after they're having this conference.
Right. So kind of weird that someone would remember one thing or something else. So this is what we're going to go into for the next hour, and talking about things that you remember from the past that aren't exactly what you remember. So we're going to be talking about false memories. So before we get into the examples, Jason, I want you to kind of talk about an event that happened over in Europe with some particles and a possibility of opening a rift in a different timeline. Let's talk about CERN.
Yeah, so the CERN, what have they got? That particle collider. And I guess in 2008, what was it, September, they had the collision of these particles. So some people think that this is where the universe is split, where the timelines diverge. So there's different theories about, but this is one of the popular theories about where timelines diverge and where we're from different universes and things don't quite match up because of what they've been doing there at CERN. And there's dealing with the God particle and stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can look into this, really interesting stuff. Something I found interesting, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but I understand that there's a statue of Shiva, the god of destruction, outside of CERN there. So people are saying that they're trying to destroy this universe here. And apparently they ran a bunch of tests on what was the Mayan calendar that had the destruction of the universe, and was 2012.
Yeah, it was December 21st, 2012 is when the world was supposed to come to an end.
Yeah, so I think they did also a bunch of collisions then as well. So is this some sort of cult about destroying the world and getting us into a new world, or are they fixing things? Are they wrecking things? What's going on? CERN was established in 1954. What have they been working on since all that time? Is there some sort of big time travel type thing, multi-dimensional stuff? What's going on with that? You can go down the hole of all kinds of weird conspiracy theories with that. I just think it's kind of interesting that that's tied in there with the particle collision and antimatter, and we'll get into quantum things later.
So we're basically saying that there was an event that happened at CERN that possibly opened a rift that shifted some people off into different timelines. Obviously, false memories have existed for a super long time. It's not just 2008. I'm sure they were prior to that, but that was when the phrase was coined. So we're going to go over about 10 different Mandela effects, I guess, and what we remember, and we're going to kind of quiz you on what you remember. So the first one we're going to start with is a famous painting, and it's the Mona Lisa. So the question is, how do you remember the Mona Lisa? Without looking up online, Do you remember the Mona Lisa not smiling or smiling?
Well, in university in art history class, I remember a big discussion about what was the meaning of this slight smile. So there was a smile, otherwise we wouldn't have been discussing the meanings of the smile. So that's how I remember it in my universe. How about your universe?
So this is where I think we've had our first divergence, because I remember a discussion was the Mona Lisa smiling. And everyone's like, well, she's not really smiling. And I don't even think the smirk came up, right? So I looked at the two different pictures of one that doesn't have her smiling and one has her smiling. So I'm not sure, because I didn't pay a lot of attention. So my gut reaction is not smiling. Mm-hmm. However, we looked it up, and according to the timeline that you and I are on right now, she is smiling, and that's how she was actually painted.
And some people say that the expression has changed over time. So I don't know. But I'm just saying, my memory, I haven't seen the real thing. I'm just saying, when I was doing art history, that's the part that sticks out in my mind about the Mona Lisa.
Right.
There was. So when I saw that it was, some people say there's not, I'm like, well, that doesn't match my memory.
So that's the thing that you should do. So if you were listening to this and you've never really played around with the Mandela Effect, you didn't know what it was, I would suggest that every time we come up with something, I want you to think about it and then just Google on your phone afterwards how you thought it was and look up the images and the pictures, and then you'll be like, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because some of them you'll have really strong feelings, and you'll hear as we're talking, or some we're going to be absolutely sure of a thing one way. Others are going to go, I'm not really sure. And others are like, I don't even know about that one. Right? Like the Mandela thing myself is like, yeah, he died sometime, but I don't remember it being a big thing, but I don't remember what year it was either. So, but
yeah, obviously it's what you're connected to and what you remember through your life, right? So Mona Lisa's one. So the next one we're going to talk about is one of the most famous movies of all time, and Star Wars. And there are a couple Mandela effects in Star Wars, but the first one we're going to talk about is the robot of C-3PO. Now, how do you remember the robot of C-3PO? What color was he?
Gold.
He was gold, right. Was he entirely gold?
Well, my impression was he was entirely gold, but apparently not in this universe.
So in this universe, in the universe, well, the universe we're in right now, is C-3PO actually was not entirely gold. His leg, one of his legs, I believe it was his right leg, below the knee, was silver.
And then when I saw that, then I'm like, well, it must have just been after, the Jawas or something didn't put them back together or something. It couldn't have been through the whole thing, right? So if I was misremembering, I was thinking, well, at the beginning he had to be all gold, right?
So according to the reality that we're in now, he had one silver leg, and the rest of him is gold. So you believe he was all gold, correct?
That's how I remember it. Maybe it was the action figures were. There's an interesting question. Did the action figures represent the thing? Because I remember it being all gold.
Interesting. I'm going to look that up because I didn't even think about that. So let's look up the original action figure of C-3PO.
Because remember, when I saw the original movie, so when I saw the original movie, there weren't even VHS tapes out back then.
Right.
So you didn't see you had years of, you saw the movie a few times when you saw it in the theater. And then after that, you had the action figure, and then it would be years before you would actually see the movie again. So it's not like now where you have access to images all the time. So it could have been that way in the movie, and I just misremembered it. If the action figure, that could have been a way that mislaid my memory. Maybe that's what I'm going on. If the action figure is all gold and the movie's not, or maybe I'm from a reality where it is all gold. That's the big question with these Mandela things. Is it a misremembering, or is it a different reality? Right. But you have so many people misremembering. Can it just be a misremembering, or is there something else to it?
Well, I'm looking at the original C-3PO here from Star Wars came out in 1977. So let's put original action figure or original. Okay. So it looks like the original action figure, 1977, was all gold.
So possibly, like, if you're going with the memory theory of Mandela Effect, that's my explanation for why I might think that particular way.
But the funny thing is the re-release of him, he has a silver leg.
So when did they do the re-release?
They've done a ton of different re-releases.
Well, when is the first silver leg?
I would have to look into that.
You have to look it up. But at some point, and does that mean that the thing changed or just that they went and did it? So this I'm not really sure. I just saying I remember it being gold. Do I remember it being gold because of the action figure?
Yeah.
You know, because obviously I looked at the action figure many more times than I looked at the movie during the time between when the first movie came out and when I actually was able to watch the movie multiple times.
Maybe this is where we're getting the false memory from. So some of the kids remember the all gold action figure, but actually the movie had a silver leg, but we weren't paying attention. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the movie a few times, but again, without not being able to rewatch it again and again like you do on the
right.
Like now everyone's got YouTube and all this other stuff, but back then you saw a movie and that was it. That was as much as you could see it until I don't know when we got VHSs, but it was in the 80s.
Yeah,
I'd have to.
But you had pointed out something very interesting. It's very hard now to actually source out things because we have deepfake videos, we have people adding stuff. So we were looking up some of these Mandela effects, and we're like, okay, let's look up the original, and then we're like, no, that's been modified, and it's very difficult to see because the digital age has been. You're able to falsify anything.
Yeah. So some of these things I'm not set on. There's other things that I am damn sure. Like the Mona Lisa one, I know. Like I didn't dream up that class where we had that huge discussion about it.
Okay. So the next one, we're going to talk about Steven Spielberg and the film Jaws.
We're not going to talk about the second Star Wars one?
Not yet.
Okay.
We'll do that after. So we're going to talk about Jaws. And so in Jaws, one of the most famous lines in Jaws is when Roy Schneider is basically backing up. He's throwing chum in the water, and then Jaws comes up and he goes like this, and he backs up, and Quinn's sitting in the cabin. And what is the line that he says about needing a bigger boat? Is it, we're going to need a bigger boat, or is it, you're going to need a bigger boat?
This one, I don't have strong feelings. I think it's just one of those mumbled things that you could hear one way or the other way. I don't think it's really that big of a one because it can either be him emphasizing it's your boat, you're the one that's going to need the bigger boat, or hey, we're in deep shit, we're going to need the boat.
And I think that's where the memory starts to.
That's where the memory goes because I don't think. I mean, you can try to listen to the clip, but it's going to be like I don't think it's going to be one of those things that's super clear.
Yeah.
But I don't think that. To me, that's not a major one. To other people, I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh my God. But they remember that so well.
Right. But many people will actually say they remember it is we're going to need a bigger boat. That's actually, I started looking that up. And that's the majority.
But I don't have an actual memory of it specifically, so I could go either way with that. I'm not going to stake a claim on that universe.
So I remember we're going to need a bigger boat, but maybe that's because it's being misquoted all this time. The actual quote is you're going to need a bigger boat. So there you go. There's another one. And the funny thing about the Mandela effect is you could be, we've mentioned 3 now, and you could be like, yep, I remember that. I remember that. So you haven't diverged off
others.
The
you'll have no clue. But it's kind of like UFOs too, right? Like you can have a bunch of things like, oh, I got that. You can explain that one way. You can explain that one way. But then you're like, holy shit, that one, no way. That's just too much. So
interesting. Okay, so that's Jaws. So the next one, which we were just talking about because this goes much deeper than Snow White, but Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Okay, let's talk about it.
This one, I'm 100% sure of this one. And it's not right in this reality. Too bad people from this reality, because I ain't from your reality.
Okay.
It's mirror, mirror.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all?
That's how it is in the universe I'm from. My timeline, that's how it is.
And so I would agree with you, Jason. I would also say it was mirror, mirror on the wall. And why am I so certain of that? Because in 1966,
there was the best Star Trek episode ever, Mirror, Mirror. It's not called Magic Mirror. It's called Mirror, Mirror. Why is it called Mirror, Mirror? They didn't just make this up out of nowhere.
Right, so they must have referenced it. So Snow White came out in 1937.
It's not just me.
1937 is when the cartoon came out. So the actual, I'm putting this in quotes, the actual quote was, magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?
Revisionist. Not true.
So the timeline that you and I both share is Mirror, Mirror.
And apparently the people that did Star Trek too, and that's why I like Star Trek, because we're from the same bloody universe.
Right, so where did they pick that up? Where is that coming from?
I don't know, but that one I'm 100% sure about.
Okay.
That one I will stand on. I'm going with universes drift apart. I'm drifting into that universe.
So the question is for you, the listening audience.
And I watched a lot of Disney back then.
Right. So I want to know, like, do you remember Mirror Mirror, or do you remember Magic Mirror on the wall? So
Magic Mirror just doesn't sound right. It is a magic mirror, but that's not what it's not the phrase.
I know. And that's the thing. We looked it up online and we looked on YouTube things. And the problem is you're going to see both, right? You're going to see Mirror Mirror where someone dubs it, or do they? And then you can see Magic Mirror as well. Yeah, I think it's Mirror Mirror. Okay. Next one, Anne Rice. She wrote a fantastic book called Interview with
the Vampire.
A Vampire. So what is it? Interview with the Vampire or Interview with a Vampire?
I think it's the, but you know, I wouldn't swear to that one the same way.
Right.
Just seems more right to me.
Yeah. So, but that's the problem. Like, it seems
like
more
there's
right.
there's a scale of things. Like there's some things that you really remember. Like the Mirror Mirror one, I remember for sure. But this one is like, no, I think it's this. Like if you put it on a scale of how much, you know, how strongly do you believe it's this way?
Yeah, but are you just going off because it just makes sense for the title?
Or just feels right to me. Like, I mean, my memory, I don't have a photographic memory. So to me, it's like, put it on a 7-point scale. How strongly do you believe it's this way? You know, strong, stronger, strongest.
Right.
You know, for me, it's like, I strongly believe that it's, you know, so that's like a 5 on a 7-point scale that I think that it's.
See,
whereas a mirror, I'm a 7 on a 7 for strong.
Right. Why 7? Why not 10?
Because you're using the adjective system. If you've got comparative, so you got your average thing, then you got strong, stronger, strongest.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, got it. So I think it was an Interview with a Vampire, but when you now say that, I'm like, oh, I could go either way. For me, it's the same thing for Mirror Mirror. I'm not like, it doesn't like go, I don't have that.
So then you would be like a 3 on that scale. You think it's A.
Correct.
But we're close to the middle, but not really.
Yes.
It's not a strongly held one.
So apparently it is Interview with the Vampire is the actual title of the book and the movie.
There you go.
So
I got a toe in this universe.
So yeah. So it's interesting how you kind of get shifted out of your universe.
You'd think that things that sometimes, that's why I'm saying people are multi-threaded. It's not just that you're going to find that everything you disagree with or everything you agree with. You're not going to be from universe A, universe B. It's not that simple.
So what's happening?
I think this is multi-universal.
Okay, so if you're on a timeline and a Mandela Effect happens and you believe one thing, and then, so here's your 2 choices, okay? We'll just keep this simple. And say you diverge here.
Yeah.
Are you coming back into this timeline, or is it a different timeline altogether that's just sharing? Right?
I think it's a bunch of different ones. Everything's all tangled together, and it's which threads are you built from?
So are they crossing, or they have every time something diverges, it like, because they say there's an infinite amount of timelines.
Yeah. So how do you look at that? I'm just saying, as a person, I think you're made up of multiple timelines. It's not simple that we're just from timeline A or timeline B. That would be too simplistic for this.
So,
but the timelines can be diverging too. So
are you getting
ways of looking at this?
Are you getting kicked off your timeline? That's why we have different effects, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
But parts of me are not from this timeline, but other parts clearly are, right? Okay. So that's why I don't think it's as simple as that it's all of me from one thing or another. That's
there you go.
I thought it would be simpler, but after looking at the different things, it just, some are, some aren't.
Okay. Here's the next one. Movie called Forrest Gump. The most famous line in Forrest Gump is him sitting on the bus bench and he's talking about his box of chocolates. And this is one that I am, again, on the scale, I'm a little bit lower, but the actual line is supposed to be life. My mother always said that life was like a box of chocolates. However, many people remember it is life is like a box of chocolates. So that, again, if you're connected to that movie, just curious what you think. Jason and I were both kind of like,
if you're really connected to the movie, you're gonna have a strong feeling about it. I mean, I saw the movie, and I can say, okay, well, maybe if his mom's dead, he would say was.
But you're using that logic right now.
But I'm using logic. I don't have. That's what I'm saying. I don't have a strong memory where I can say, no, this is how it was for me. I'm not using that by personal experience. It didn't speak strongly enough to me, so I don't have one I'm gonna pitch with that. But to some other people out there, they're going to be like, that's going to be the strongest one. That's what's really interesting with these Mandela things, is everyone's not affected the same way.
Right.
Some people will be like, what are you talking about with this thing? And then other ones like, how can you not see that? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
That's what's super interesting about this.
Well, that's Forrest Gump for you. So now we're going to go into kind of a interesting one, and we're going to talk about some logos. So the logo we're going to talk about is, we're going to talk about the car company Ford. How do you remember the Ford logo? Now, there is an actual squiggle in the Ford logo that most people don't know exists. They think it's different. So I'm going to show you what the Ford logo, see if that works there. So you'll see that on the F, that there's an actual little squiggle up top. That is the actual Ford logo in this timeline. However, most people remember it without the squiggle. Now, do you remember it with the squiggle?
The squiggle to me stands out. Like the squiggle seems right.
Interesting. So I'm going to show you what the comparative of the two and what people remember or what they don't. So if you look at the two there, I'm sorry it's not super clear, but the top one is with the squiggle and the bottom is without. And many people remember the bottom as the typical Ford logo.
Well, I mean, that looks more like a normal F, but that's not how the Ford thing looks.
Right. So what is the squiggle? It looks like an E. So it's kind of weird. So again, I think I remember with the squiggle as well. But again, it's one of those things I didn't pay attention.
Yeah, I'm not a car guy, but there's someone out there going, oh my God, my family's had Ford since ever. How can you guys even have any doubt about this? This is the clearest thing in the universe.
Okay, next one. We're going to talk about hot dogs. So, do you remember it as Oscar Mayer wieners, or do you remember it as Oscar Mayer
It's an
wieners?
E. It's an E.
Oscar Mayer wieners with an E.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll go 6 on this one.
Okay, so me too. So Oscar, obviously spelled that way, it's M-E-Y-E-R, Oscar Mayer. However, in this reality that we're living, it's Mayer. It's M-A-Y-E-R. That is how it's always been spelled, and that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. I don't remember it like that. Do you?
No.
No.
Doesn't seem right. I remember the E.
So again, I think it's one of those, like,
is it just one of those things that just seems right and don't really remember it? I don't know, but it just doesn't feel right. The A feels wrong.
It's a weird thing. So I'm going to show you the logos side by side.
Like some of these things are just by feeling. You just have a gut feeling, and I think that makes sense when you're talking about what you're possibly made out of.
Yeah. So here we go. Those are the two. So we remember M-E-Y-E-R, but in actual reality, and the one that we're in, it's M-A-Y-E-R.
It looks real, and the other one looks fake.
I know.
It's like simple as that.
Super odd. So again, another Mandela effect. Chocolate bars. Kit Kat. Do you remember the logo Kit Kat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when you think of the Kit Kat, what is there a hyphen?
The Kit Kat has a hyphen because it's Kit Kat. It's not Kit Kat.
It's not Kit Kat. It's Kit Kat. So there is a hyphen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I remember it as well.
Yeah. And it's the same problem with Coke,
which we're going to actually talk about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Kit Kat, I remember with a hyphen. In actual reality, there is no hyphen. There never has been.
Never has been. It's not one of those they changed the logo at some point, or it's American versus Canadian.
Nope.
Or
so apparently, the timeline that you and I
do
were
Americans
from,
even have Kit Kats?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they don't have coffee crisp though. So here we go. Here is Kit Kat. Let me try to get that for you. There we go. So the hyphen does not exist. And that's how we remember it. And then the actual one, Kit Kat, with no hyphen, that's the actual one.
I mean, I ate a lot of them. I don't know how much attention I paid to the wrapper. It just doesn't look right if it doesn't have the hyphen. But as a kid, I ate a lot of them.
Yeah. Kind of weird.
I remember reading books on the floor in front of the candy bar thing. I was like, I must have seen it a lot.
Okay, how about cereal? We're going to talk about Fruit Loops. How do you spell Fruit Loops?
Fruit and then loops.
Yes. So let's talk about the fruit part. Is it F-R-O-O-T or is it F-R-U-I-T.
UIT, because it's fruit.
I know, but
Like, I don't like fruit, but I remember Fruit Loops being fruit. And it was like, oh, this is the actual kind of fruit that I like.
correct. So I remember it as Fruit Loops too, but many people think that Fruit Loops has F-R-O-O-T. So here are the logos for them. And as you can see, again, sorry, a little blurry. You'll be able to see the double O on the fruit. So in actual reality, it was spelt fruit.
Okay, so I'm from this reality this time. Okay.
Well, so the question is, are you actually from this reality? Because we've said that it's diverged several times. Kind of a weird.
But if you look at them on each isolated incident, you can kind of do a tally of how much you're from. And what does that mean if we're from all these different things, but the world that we're in isn't?
Say that again.
So if I have some things that match up with this reality and some don't, but everything in this reality has to match up with this reality. The things in this reality only are one way. The people are multiple ways. So then you get into the whole thing about willpower and effects on quantum universes and stuff.
So what happens if all the things we've gone through right now, one person goes, I remember it this way, the correct way of this reality. So
I've never met anyone that would remember everything the way that it's supposed to be, that would say, no, all the stuff is the way it is, but maybe I just know weird people.
Got it. But it's
possible. It's possible. There's going to be someone who doesn't remember any of the ways, and there'll be someone who remembers all the ways. But in my experience, there's been someone who's always like, yeah, bullshit.
Right.
They're like, you guys are just full of crap. And then you get to another one like, holy fuck. They're like,
yeah.
No, okay, those other things were crap, but no, this is real. And then they don't believe you, and then when they think you're trying to trick them with the thing. So you go through, and you're sitting here now, and yeah, whatever. You keep going, you're gonna find one that you're gonna believe. If you don't, let us know, because maybe you are totally from this universe.
So
poor bastard.
Who can prevent forest fires?
Only you.
Yes. And what was the bear's name?
Smokey the Bear.
You mean Smokey Bear?
Smokey the Bear.
Smokey Bear.
No,
not
the. There has to be a the. It's always the bear.
So some people think that it's Smokey Bear as opposed to Smokey the Bear. Jason and I both remember Smokey the Bear, but there are people that think Smokey Bear.
It's wrong.
Now, are they wrong because it doesn't make sense, or that's how you remember it?
Maybe they're not from the same universe as me, but that's wrong. It's not the way it, and this one's strong. I'm sure of this one.
Okay, you're 7 on that one.
6.5.
6.5. Okay, so according to this,
it's not mirror level, but it's pretty good.
But according to this timeline, it's Smokey the Bear.
Yeah.
So you and I both agree that. So we're in agreement with this timeline.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Next, we're going to move on to Silence of the Lambs. Now, this is a big one. What does Hannibal Lecter say to Clarice when they first meet face to face? What do you remember?
So I remember the Hello Crease. And that's
you remember what?
The Hello Crew.
Hello.
I can't say her name now.
Clarice. So most people think that it's Hello Clarice.
It won't even let me say it in this world.
Yeah, you're being drawn back into the other one. No. So I remember it, Hello Clarice. And again, if you look on the internet, you'll see these deep fakes on it. The actual line from the movie, he never said Hello Clarice. And that's a big shocker to most people. I go, what? So the actual thing is, he actually says, good morning. That is the first line he says. Never says Hello Clarice. I don't know where it comes from. It's weird. So
I don't remember much of that movie. That was the thing that I remembered from it. So
it's weird. Actually, let's go back to Star Wars. You had mentioned about Luke. Okay, so I got to look that one up. But what do you remember of that? Like, so talk about this one. Go through this.
Well, so there's the Luke father thing, right? They're on what's Cloud City's name? Bespin? Did I just screw that up, or did I actually get that right? I'm having one of those days.
Yeah.
Cloud City's name's Bespin, right?
What do you mean? The actual city?
Yeah.
What's Cloud City?
Yeah.
You mean the planet? Or are you talking about what are you talking about? I'm sorry.
Cloud City, isn't it Bespin?
I can't remember.
Anyway, it's not relevant to what we're talking about.
Jeremy, my Star Wars buddy, what is it? Let me know.
Anyway, so there's a thing about Darth Vader and Luke. And it's like, Luke, I'm your father.
Luke, I'm your father. That's how you remember it?
So is that not?
That's not correct.
So
we're not sure where this comes from, but however, so the actual line, everyone remembers James Earl Jones' voice saying, Luke, I am your father. But the actual line is, no, I am your father.
There's Luke. It doesn't sound right without Luke.
So I think the false memory comes from when because I think he said several times, Luke,
but
right?
I thought that when they interviewed him years later and stuff and asked him either about this or he was talking about it, and the actors would have had to go over the lines many, many times.
So here's the thing.
How are they going to get that wrong?
They're not. So the actor who actually played Darth Vader would speak the lines. He had a British accent. Mm-hmm. James Earl Jones' voice was added later.
Yeah.
So maybe the actor himself, when they're going through lines, he would say, Luke, I am your father. However, in post-production, James Earl Jones, who was the actual voice.
I didn't see the pre-production, so where did I get that from?
You had heard an interview with the actual actor talking about that.
But why would that override seeing the actual movie? Or did the movie change between the universes?
Well, I don't know. Or your memory was replaced by what you saw in that interview afterwards. I don't know. I mean, that's the weird thing.
It just, without Luke, it just doesn't sound right.
I agree. So it's another weird one.
So, and that's a strong one. Like it's Luke. It's like that. There's no question that's how it is. It's got Luke.
So we've given you 11, 12, 13 examples of a Mandela effect, right? Really quick going through it. And so we're just talking about divergence of the timeline and what you remember and false memory. We're kind of going to go down the rabbit hole a little bit more. We talked originally about CERN and how they collided some particles together, and some people actually make the theory that caused the divergence of a timeline, and that's why we remember different things.
We're living in a pretty fucked up world right now. Someone did it.
Someone did it. So Matrix and things like that. So we were talking earlier, before the cameras came on, we were talking about some of the things on there about different timelines, some different movies that are talking about opening rifts. There's some great movies out there that do that. So two that came to my mind, although it's not really about the Mandela effect, it is talking about the
alternate realities.
Yes.
Stuff,
yeah. Or the dangers of,
like, to me, alternate realities are even more interesting than time travel. Well, they're kind of connected, but still.
I would agree. Pretty cool. And there's so many awesome books about it, and so many
movies, or even some of your favorite shows with just really good episodes about them.
So what kind of, like, okay, well, so before I start, Sliders, that's a show that was all about that.
The whole thing was about it. Great show.
Alternate realities and just it's sliding into different things, right?
Yeah.
Quantum Leap,
yeah.
Another one. I don't know if that was necessarily alternate realities, but it still was kind of him.
But he's jumping between reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. One that I liked, which is not really alternate realities, but it's about opening portals, was Hellraiser by Clive Barker. Mm-hmm. Fantastic, having the lament configuration, opening it up and opening a portal to hell. Very cool. I always like that dark stuff. If you've been watching the Torvus podcast, you know that I do like that stuff.
We will get to that sometime.
Yeah, that's going to be a movie.
Butterfly Effect movie, just insanely appropriate for this. Like, wow.
Yeah. I think if you want to have like a really bad trip, you just watch all those movies that have to do with alternate realities and stuff. Inception is another one, which is very cool. Obviously, The Matrix is one of the originals.
Yeah, it was kind of being in different ones.
Super cool. There was a neat horror film, it was a science fiction film, which called Event Horizon. It was lambasted as a horrible film, but it actually had some neat concepts. Basically, it was a spaceship that went out into the solar system, and they used a particular drive, Event Horizon black hole, and it opened a portal, and the portal was to hell. So it was a similar thing. And then so the ship became sentient.
But no Maximilian.
No Max. Oh my goodness. The black hole. Yes. The space opera. I have mixed feelings about that film.
Yes, we all do.
we actually talked about it in a previous podcast. If you've never seen The Black Hole by Disney, it was made in the late 1970s. It was the first Disney film that was rated PG. They had never done it before. So crazy one. But Event Horizon, that's another one that you should watch. I'm going to totally go on a tangent here for a second. Jason, I was watching The Beastmaster the other night. I haven't watched it in 30 years.
You watched Beastmaster too?
Yeah. Well, did you watch it recently?
Recently, yeah.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
It was like within the last month.
Yeah, I watched it like last week.
Yeah, because I was doing some design on Rangers and stuff, and I was like, no, I got to watch Beastmaster while I'm eating dinner.
Yeah. So here's the thing: if you were a product of the 1970s and grew up in the 70s and 80s like we did, we obviously have these memories about these. Speaking about memories, about movies and really cool things that we enjoyed. You have to be careful when you revisit them and where your mindset's at, because movies aren't what they were because you're looking at it as a 10-year-old and now you're looking at it as a 40 plus or 50-year-old. It's different.
Yeah, but that one's still okay. It's not like fucking Crawl. Don't watch Crawl again. If you've seen it, stay pure. Just go with your memories. Don't soil it.
Okay, so here's the question. How does the Beastmaster hold up and Crawl doesn't? Why? What's the difference? Because they're both horrible. What's the difference?
Beastmaster's still okay.
Why?
It's not great. It's okay. It's just like it's all right, and it's got cool animals and stuff, and the things there, and it kind of delivers on it. It's like a Beastmaster. It's like the guy there with the beasts, and he masters them, and it's there. And Crawl's supposed to be about that good, cool throwing disc thing, which barely even comes into the fucking thing at all.
Wasn't
and they don't do shit with glaive, and it's not even like a fucking glaive, and it's not a discotron, and they barely use the thing in the whole damn movie anyway. So it's just a huge disappointment. What you're like, oh, I want to watch this thing about this cool thing. Your memories of how cool it are better than how cool it is. So don't do it.
But you agree that the Beastmaster was worth a watch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Now, alternate reality things.
Yeah.
One of the best episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah, which one?
Yesterday's Enterprise.
Great.
Right?
Yes.
And there's how you can fix a universe, like the whole Tasha Yar thing.
Yeah.
Stupid tar thing, or cool alternate reality thing.
Yeah.
Cool alternate reality thing wins every time.
Yeah, that was a very
that
cool
was
episode.
One of the best episodes of The Next Generation.
Yeah.
So many good ones, but that was pretty damn good. Like it was just like, whoa, total difference, alternate reality to the rescue with that for sure.
So what other kind of alternate reality things? We talked about a couple movies. We talked about some dimensional stuff. We kind of went off the beaten path, talked about Krull and the Beastmaster.
Yeah, that was total.
So
but that's so us.
So is there any other things that we can throw in here with the Mandela Effect?
Well, there's some really cool stuff because there's like the whole thing with quantum stuff and quantum computing, right?
Okay.
Now, we're here in Canada, in Vancouver, they've got these cool computers. I think they're called D-Wave, that are these quantum computers and stuff. So maybe we're under part of more Mandela Effect stuff because we're close to quantum computing. But anyway, the whole thing with quantum universes not being just one choice, but having multiple possibilities that are out there that quantum computers can do more than regular computers because they're operating not just on zeros and ones, but you've got different states that you can go into. And then you can tie that in with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and then you can tie it in with AIs, and you can get into the thing if Bitcoins are being used to get things up to the point where AIs can become sentient. And
okay, let's stop for a second.
You can start combining these conspiracy things and get really weird.
So you had mentioned something about cryptocurrency, which I had never heard before. So who invented cryptocurrency? Is there some shadow figure out there?
Well, there's a Satoshi guy, but no one really knows who he is, and some fake bullshit guy that claims he is and stuff. But it's not. But so there's all kinds of different theories about like what could it be and stuff. And I'm no crypto expert, but one really weird theory is that it's like AI. So you can get into this kind of fringe Skynet kind of thing where it's like an AI trying to create itself, and it's trying to get the computing level up to the point where it can. And so the Bitcoins are to get the computing processing enough so that they can get the AI to sentience faster. Now, was that created by an AI from the future? That's one of the weird theories. Or is it people that are trying to get an AI sentient? Interesting to do a thing.
Have you heard of the theory that they say that if computers ever reach like an AI, like sentience, then we'll turn into that whole Skynet thing, and they want to take over the planet and stuff like that? Do you believe that?
I don't know. Depends which universe you're talking
Well, let's talk about this one.
about. I don't know.
Do you think it's a danger to have a computer that is self-aware?
Well, yeah, it's a danger. Look at what's happened with creating corporations and programming them the way that they have, what they've done to the world. You know, that they're just programmed to run off of pure profit and the destruction that they're reaping across the world over the last several decades, right? So what happens when you get an AI if it doesn't have the proper guidelines to go off of? What is it making its decisions based off of? And some of the AIs that they've turned on to do learning, they threw them on the internet to try to learn. And you know what happens when you get on internet discussion things, how they degenerate into horrible trolls and stuff. Some of the AIs turned into that kind of shit and they turned them off. So how do you bring up your AI, right? What's the right way to raise an AI to become a thing? And then it's like, is AIs and machine things, is that the next evolution of man? Is genetics the only way that we can create another iteration of ourselves or a new race? Are we going to be the gods of a new type of intelligence? And there's all kinds of interesting things you can get into with the AIs, right? I don't know. That could be a whole other topic. And there's some really cool things with AIs, and they put them into androids, and they got different things. And some are kind of
I've seen
fake showy things, and some are like kind of like, whoa, spooky shit.
So there was that one AI. I got to find that clip, but basically it was like it's a female.
Oh,
AI.
the chick, she's is it Saudi Arabia or whatever made her a citizen?
Yeah. That's who it is. Yeah. But they asked,
what's her name?
I'll have to look it up. But they asked her in an interview. It's like, hey, if you were running the world, what would you do? And you know, and then she joked and she said, I would destroy you. And then there was like this weird silence between the two of them. And she's like, no, I'm just kidding. And then you're like, well, is she? You know?
Yeah.
That was creepy.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
But, you know, some of these CEOs, if they're psychopath or sociopath, whatever it is, that are running things now, are they really any more human than some of those AIs? But that's maybe a different topic that some people may not appreciate the same way. But
well, I mean, we kind of ran through some really quick things with the Mandela Effect.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of it. It's just kind of a grab bag of things. But that's what I think is really interesting, is just go through, look for Mandela Effect things, see which things speak to you. And if you find that absolutely nothing, you think it's complete bullshit, okay, well, I've never run into anybody that's said that there's nothing. Yeah. But I've never seen anyone that's like, oh yeah, no, they're totally all right on either. So
I guess there's two camps. There's one camp that actually believes in the Mandela Effect, that we are in alternate timelines. And the other one is, it's just a psychological phenomenon, misremembering and false memory. And there's a whole, there's thesis on it, like everything. So which one is it? And it's kind of what you believe.
Well, I don't think it's all one. Like, you can have some that are just misremembering, but that doesn't mean, like I was saying, it's just like the UFO things. Just because you can explain some things doesn't mean you can explain all things. It can say that it's not anything to it whatsoever.
Right. Okay.
Right. Like, how many dimensions are there? How many states of matter are there? Where's the center of the solar system? You know, which way we roll it. There's lots of things that were known for sure that aren't. Look at some of the stuff being done with gravity stuff now. What about antimatter? There's all kinds of different things now that were just impossible before.
And this is why I guess Jason and I, and Alex isn't here today, he's away, but this is why we're proponents of geek culture, because there's all this stuff that we have encountered through our lives that have helped us expand our imagination. We've done role playing, we've read science fiction, we've read fantasy, we've read papers on this stuff, because it's just, we find it fascinating.
Right. And geeks are willing to explore things, whether it's just talking about it like this, or if you're writing fiction or art or whatever it is, a creative thing within geeks, you're playing it in your games. We're open to the ideas, and we're open to these different realities. So maybe that means we're more from them. That's why we're more open to them. And
there's a whole bunch of really neat shows that are geek shows that have gone down this avenue. So I'm going to talk about, for example, Doctor Who. Doctor Who came out, oh my God, it's like in the early 60s, right? So 1963.
Yeah, it was still black and white at the beginning.
Yeah, and the first episode was called Unearthly Child. I'm a massive Doctor Who fan. We haven't done Doctor Who yet on the Torvus podcast. We're going to, but
it was a decade to rewatch all the episodes.
But literally, right? So if you look at Doctor Who, it's all these episodes have explored time and space and realities and just all these really cool things. And the mythos of Doctor Who's just expanded. And I'm not like here, it's gone like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's spawned different shows, and then it's spawned hundreds and hundreds of books and talking about how time travel works and in Doctor Who, and talking about the planets and Gallifrey, which is where the Doctor's from. And like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So it's awesome what geeks have done for geeks, I guess. So I really appreciate that stuff.
Yeah, so much cool stuff.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to talk about for us now moving away from the Mandela Effect is about the thing which is on the wall behind me. So about a month ago, my very good friend, Paul Bramra, made this. And so Pauly made this for me, and it's my Viking shield.
Maybe you can just move your fat head out of the way.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So as you can see, it's fantastic. It's very heavy. It's very solid. And so Pauly said to me, Pauly's like, hey, I want it to be, if you actually go into battle with it, I want it to hold up. So I'm not going to pull it off the wall right now, but it's very thick. It's super solid. It has a raven painted on it.
Cool.
But I wanted to name the shield. And because I think shields and weapons, they need to be named. And so the shield does not have a name. And it's been sitting there for a month. And it's bad luck in Viking culture that you don't name something. So we have to name the shield. So I put this up a while ago, and then I got some names that people start throwing. So I'm going to start throwing them at you, Jay.
Okay.
And
bounce them off. Let's see.
We're going to see. So I have some ideas, and this is not a knock on the name. So Jason's just going to be like, yes, no. And you have to get a sense of what the shield is like. You have to be in its presence to know it's like it's always been there. And Pauly is a master woodworker. If you're looking for something like this, he can make it for you, and you can contact me, and I can put you in touch with him.
If you're worthy.
If you're worthy.
Oh,
so
wait, that's a hammer.
So I'm going to come over here. Okay, so we're going to talk about names. So Jay, I'm going to throw some names at you for the shield.
Okay.
So the first one is, we have Scott Yokel. He said Dark Eagle.
Okay.
Okay. Hayden Hill said Blooddorn.
Okay.
Michael Martin said Raven's Reaper.
Okay.
Nick Frank said Ragnar or Magnus. Jesse Moore, he said Odin's Gaze, and he said, considering the Raven or the Crow in the Crimson Center, he said Odin's Gaze. Pauly himself, he said Bloodkorpen, Reapharpen, or Bexkader, which is Blood Raven, Reaper, or Protector. He's obviously going a little Nordic on that one. Brandon Kane said Hugin, which obviously you have thought and memory from Odin's Ravens. Mm-hmm. My buddy Michael said Magnus, meaning great. What else did he put in here? Old Norris from Magahus, which is powerhouse. My buddy Raven said, you have a name on your shield. That's awesome. His name.
Hey, Raven.
Raven says, my middle name is Victor. So maybe we can call it Raven Victor. Urman says N95 because it protects you from stuff. So he's doing the whole COVID thing, which is fantastic. My good buddy Kevin Davey, he says he was going to suggest a sword and arrow stoppy thing, but that doesn't have a nice ring to it.
That's a technical name for it.
Yeah. So he said, how about the Nordic word for indestructible, which is unforgettling? I probably butchered that one. Janae Cox, Torsten. It's funny, people can actually come up with names. Like Torsten's an actual Nordic name. Kenneth Matson said Steve. I like Steve. We have Lonnie, and he said Bifrost. Robert says Yarvanor. We have Jay Chow, who said Dave. I love it. Ernest Casey, he said Draven because he's a Crow fan. Daniel said Woody. So, oh no, that's already been used, he said. We have Misty who said Felix, Mort, Nathan Kent, or Maceo. And those are all references from role-playing. And actually, she has my dad's name in there, Mort. Also has Kaiso, Loki, Jack Burton, Red Dwarf, Tremere, and Crepitus. That's hilarious. Ralph from Germany says Hemdall the Protector. Natty Thorpe says Big Monster. He says your mug under. And Kim Spencer says anytime is crow nipple time. So I guess it looks like a nipple to some people.
Crow nipple. Okay.
It's interesting. So those are some of the names throwing out there. So what do you think a shield should be named?
I think I would just, from the quick thing there, to me, the one that made the most sense to me was Odin's gaze.
Yeah.
But if you could come up with a Norse way of saying that, and then because you've got the raven, you also got the ravens too. So the ravens are Odin's gaze. They are his eyes, right? There's one shield. You don't have two shields. You've got one shield, right? It's round. It's like an eye. There's one eye. So Odin's one eye, and the raven being on it being one of the eyes of Odin. Mm-hmm. So figure out what the Norse.
Well, Norse name for Odin is Woden, which is
and,
W.
And
so
what's I? And I don't. I'm sorry, I shame my hair. I shame my heritage in not actually having ever.
But it could be like Odin's gaze, right?
Yeah,
eye or gaze. So you could do that in a
God's eye is another one of those things. Was that not something that was said in the Thor comic once?
God's eye.
God's eye.
God's eye. Yes. So maybe we're kind of,
because I think that ties in with having the raven on it there, but I would like it not English.
So if we
that's just my first impression there.
Okay. So if we do a Nordic, so we're going to look up Norse for gaze or eye. I guess the same, right?
I always like the phrase God's eye. I'm pretty sure it had to come from a Thor comic. Where would I learn such things?
Look at my Thor collection. We can say.
Look at my Thor collection.
Want
to compare collections?
We have the same collection. That's why, because we collected Thor at the same time,
independently.
Yes, the late 200s and 300s were the best. Yeah. To stare intently or earnestly.
400 was a big deal. Anyway.
So here we go. Gaze.
Gaze.
I got that. Okay.
Thanks, Siri. Thanks for contributing.
SJA. That is one of the pronunciations of gaze, but there's got to be other things like that. So I really want to look into that. So that's
look into the eye.
Okay, so we're thinking Odin's eye or Odin's gaze, whatever.
Yeah, and that's a big thing about Odin losing the eye. That's like a big part of Odin, and I just like the fact that there's one. It's round. It's there. It's got the bird on it, which is like an eye of Odin. That they go out looking for him.
So the other thing that I'm thinking of, because I do like the Odin thing because of how it is, but I think the name's going to be a little bit longer. So I think we're going to have the Odin's gaze.
But I don't know. Maybe Norse is not like German. You don't get like 50 syllable words out of something.
Yeah, but I think we're also going to add, because I'm going to add two kind of names to this. And it does have a raven on it, and which is important because it's going to play a role into what I'm about to say. So my buddy Dane, and I want to put Dane in the shield. So my buddy Dane, who passed away a few years ago.
It'd be too obvious to name an axe after.
Yeah, right. But he had.
Sorry, Dane, couldn't resist you. You know I would do
it. So Dane had a forge. He was a blacksmith, and his forge was called Two Ravens Forge. And so I want to be able to incorporate a raven name maybe into it. I want to have Dane's name into it, but it doesn't have the two ravens on it. So I think we're getting close to kind of the christening of the name. So we've got to get Dane's name in there and Odin's eye or gaze. So
see, I don't know. It's got the one raven on there, and that's what I'm saying is that like you can go, yes, there's two, but there's one on it and there's one eye and it's there and there's one raven with him and one away somewhere else. So I think it actually works with the one.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there's one there, you know, there's another one somewhere else because it's looking. Even though he has one eye, he's looking in more than one place. That's part of the thing that makes Odin Odin.
Gotcha. So, but people are waiting for a name. So how are we going to? So maybe what we'll do is
I'm still trying to come up with the name for my character for tomorrow. Jeez.
So there we go. That's where we're going. So special thanks to my
anyone that's an Elvish expert, give me a call in the next half hour. Talk. I need some help.
So my good friend, obviously, Pauly, who made the shield, really appreciate it. It's awesome, and we're getting real close now.
Very cool.
Yeah, so super happy about it. So there you go. That was the Mandela Effect, and that was alternate realities, and that was things that you thought you knew that were incorrect.
And every name that you guys gave in one reality, that's the name.
That's the name of a shield, right?
So you're all right with multiple universes.
That's true.
It can all be right all the time.
Craziness. So we really appreciate you joining us for this really weird Mandela Effect thing. It's super late. Jason and I just kind of started blabbing about it, and it's something we talked about for a while, but we appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll have another episode soon. Of course, Alex will be here, and we'll be keep talking about geek stuff. So remember, as we always say on the Torvus podcast, keep on geeking on.